All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining me. My name is Andy. I'm with Integrity Data Insights, and I help companies grow by improving their company's data and reporting. And I'm so thrilled to have my friend and former colleague on, Meredith Arlinghaus, who has a company called Empower. And so thanks so much, Meredith, for joining me.
Andy, I'm so happy that you asked me to join you today. Thanks so much.
Oh, sure. So Meredith and I, we both worked at the same company, but and correct me if I'm wrong, Meredith, but I don't think we worked too much directly together. I
Not,
think we
no,
were kind
not.
of on
I think
different
we had
sides.
different divisions that we were in and different departments. So, yeah, I was in more of the finance and operations, and you were the back office data engine. And I want to make sure your legions of fans know the history of Andy Murphy. So, when, like you said, we worked for the same corporation, and I moved to this new division, supporting a new group, and being in the finance realm, I was looking for data, and somebody's like, you just need the Murphy report. And I'm like, what is that? And they're like, oh, that some guy makes this report that all the salespeople and operations people use. I'm like, well, I mean, we have a bunch of data, Fortune 1000 company. Don't we have software systems? They're like, well, they don't really do what we want. And so this guy created his own for all of us. So the man, the myth, the
That's
legend,
funny.
everybody, the Murphy report, Andy
Yeah,
Murphy sitting here
it
in
was
front of
kind
you.
of a joke. It was the guy or the guy, sorry, my boss at the time, he had the idea, like he was taking some marketing class, and I, of course, being an engineer, I called it, I don't know, the automatic Excel generator. I called it something nerdy and terrible, but he like was taking some marketing branding class, so he called it. He said, "Oh, we should call this the Murphy report," and I thought he was joking, and then he did, and he was right though, because it did stick, and it was kind of a funny thing.
It
So
did, and the
uh,
number of people that used it's incredible. So,
it was a blast,
yes,
blast from the past. Yeah, it would basically dump out a bunch of customer data. So
and that's what
um,
you're doing now, right? You just get to
yeah,
do it,
pretty much kind of the
um,
same thing, but just
on
kind of
your
for other
own.
people. So yeah, tell
Yes.
me about Empower. So you
Mhm.
kind of always had an accounting background, and then you kind of
Correct.
decided to start your own thing. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing and how it's going.
Yeah. Well, so thanks. So, correct. My background was in accounting and finance. So I followed the traditional path coming right out of the University of Dayton. I went to Deloitte, so did the Big Four route, and then went to the corporation that you and I worked at together. So that was pretty much the extent of my big business career. And when I was there, probably for close to 13 years, right, did the corporate ladder climb, multiple divisions, things like that, and it just slowly, was just too much to balance, right, with increasing responsibilities. That's just
Right.
increasing time away, and I had three small kids and a husband who travels a lot for his job. And I just knew, if I was going to make it and our family and my marriage was going to make it, I just had to take a step away from that corporate aspect
Right.
of my life. So with the leap of faith, I literally just walked away from that. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And after just a very brief hiatus, I was volunteering at a nonprofit, and they brought me on board. And so that was great because
Ah,
I was just doing their finances, right? It was easy, just doing QuickBooks, things like that. And because of the
yeah.
charter of that nonprofit, they were helping small businesses and entrepreneurs. And what was cool about it was, being employee 3 of the nonprofit, you got to wear a ton of hats, right?
Yeah.
Just like any startup. And at the corporation that we both worked at, I mean, there was a payroll department, there was a benefits department, there was a finance
Yeah.
department, there was a accounting department, sales department. And then when you're in that small of a business, you've got to do it all. So I jumped in the deep end of the pool and quickly learned all that stuff, what a small business has to do. And as I was teasing out earlier, because of the charter and working with other small businesses,
Yeah.
I got to help them navigate that too. So I thought that was super cool. Was just um, working alongside these owners and entrepreneurs as they're navigating their own business, and that's what quickly grew. So kind of like yourself, a leap of faith, leaving the corporate world and starting your business by helping others. And that's
Yeah.
essentially what had been happening for about 5 years. And I built that to over 2 dozen small business clients that I've been doing fractional accounting work for. So that's the
Nice.
journey. So I wanted to set the stage of even how then we got to Empower. So
Yeah.
that's how I started my own business. And it was not, I did not leave corporate thinking, I'm going to start my own business. It was, I don't know
Mhm.
what I'm going to do, but I'm going to figure it out.
I was
So I
kind of
invested,
yeah.
right? You got to invest in yourself a little bit and be like, I'm just going to trust me. So that's what I
Right.
did.
I
But
kind
then,
of,
go ahead.
yeah, I was kind of the same way. I was kind of like, I'm going to bet on myself, like instead of waiting on somebody else to kind of think I'm valuable enough and stuff. And it wasn't easy. Yeah, definitely. Didn't you say kind
No,
of you were working, didn't you say maybe you were kind of helping some of the people with it? And then they're like, well, what if I just had you do it? Like you were kind of helping them do it
that's so true.
themselves.
Yeah, you know a
And
little
then
bit
they're
more of
kind of,
that backstory. Yeah. So yeah, I was just like you said, just working with them, trying to teach them how, like, oh, here's how you do your QuickBooks. This is what I
right,
recommend. And I had individuals be like, can I just pay you to do this? I'm not going to learn this. I have no capacity
right.
to take this on. Or can you please take this over from my spouse who's helping and they don't want to be doing this? So that's where that need, it's almost like if people are looking, for ideas, I know it's a dream. Everybody wants to start their own business and stuff like that. Don't know where to start. The best thing is just
Yeah.
to identify what you like doing and what you see people need. And that's basically the role that I stepped into for them. And I know you've done the same too. So
Right. It's
that's,
kind of the intersection of what you're kind of naturally gravitate towards and kind
yeah,
of falling into what people need.
so true. So true.
So
So,
so
go ahead.
then you kind of did that for a while, kind of doing all the work yourself. Then you kind of
Mhm.
decided to start in power. Is that right?
Bingo. Yep. So late last year, I started Empower because I got to that inflection point where I realized I could not, I had no more capacity to take on small business clients, and the
Yeah.
demand just kept coming. And I looked at different business models, just putting on that sort of hat, and I realized I didn't want to just hire accounting staff or bookkeepers to do it. What I wanted to do, and that's the kind of the double entendre with the name,
Yeah.
is to empower other accounting professionals to start their own outsourced accounting business as well. So that's where
Right.
I'm taking all the knowledge I've gathered over the years, and basically made a turnkey playbook for other accountants because, kind of like yourself, Andy, I know you well. We're a little risk adverse, because some in the stuff that
Yeah,
we,
for
just in the
sure.
disciplines that we're associated with, and because we are risk averse, some people aren't ready to make that leap without kind of a Sherpa or a guide to say, "Come on, I've done it. I'm going to teach you how." So that's what Empower is really about, is helping other accountants see that there is a different um, way outside of the traditional path that we're pretty much taught in school, right? You go to Big Four, you go to CPA firms, you go to corporate America, and that's how you live out your accounting degree. But I'm here to
Yeah.
say that there's a different, more flexible, and quite frankly, lucrative way to have another business outside of that.
Yeah, I love that so it's kind of like, from hearing you right, I mean, like, not all accountants are gonna be ones that are gonna be extroverted enough to try to find clients, to try to, to have all that back and forth and to market themselves and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So you kind of, like you said, that kind of give them the playbook to take a lot of that away from them. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think the easiest way to talk about things is through analogies because I think that resonates with
Yeah.
people. So especially because this isn't common in the accounting industry. So a great analogy I use, like even when I talk to my parents about what I do, I was like, okay, think of there's two different industries. You can think of like the real estate industry and Remax, or you can think of like financial services and Ameriprise, right? So both of those are kind of shell organizations that the professionals underneath of them own their own businesses, but just operate, right? They get the marketing support, lead gen, they get software, best practice sharing, kind of that community. You have a bunch of colleagues, but you don't have that
Yeah.
structure of here's my boss eh, and staff meetings and all that. You just get a lot of content and stuff to build you as a professional, but you're running your own business, you're finding your own clients, but you do get the support of that broader organization. So hopefully that analogy helps because I think people can put
Yeah.
themselves in the mind of, okay, I know how the real estate world works, right? I know a real estate agent. They have their own business, they have their own clients, they kind of run their own shop. But yeah, they're not just out on their own. Um, they
Right.
they are under like I said, a Remax, a Coldwell Banker, et cetera. So that's really
Got
what we
it.
are for accounting
Nice.
professional.
So
Yeah.
talk about a little bit of the benefits to for the accountant side. Obviously, we can get into a little bit more of what you do for the small businesses, but
Yeah.
what's the advantage kind of for, if I'm an accountant and I'm thinking, I might be need a change or maybe I need a side
Mhm.
hustle. What kind of things, I guess, do you offer that a traditional maybe employment doesn't? Um,
Yeah. So I think the best selling feature is not only the flexibility, but you also get to work with the clients that you choose. I think those are my two favorite things, right? It is now, I mean, it's summer. I'm sitting out by my
Yeah,
pool on this call. I'm outside because
right.
I have three kids inside, and I wanted to have a little bit of privacy. But I'm going to
Yeah.
log off here in 2 hours and go to the Foo Fighters concert with my family. Like,
I'm
I
going to
don't know.
that also. That's
I'll see
funny.
you down there. Oh my gosh,
My
that's so
friend invited
cool.
me the last minute, so gosh, that's funny. Sorry, we do.
Uh,
Okay, this is
That's
great.
so fun. See, and it's like stuff like that. Like, yeah, I would have had to take PTO today, right? If I don't have PTO. I don't track PTO. I have my own business.
Right.
So
Yep, same
I take
here.
off. I have the flexibility when I need to. And I think that's huge. And I think that's one of the benefits. I hate to say a benefit of COVID, but I think that time of the pandemic really reframed people's thinking about professional work and how
For
you can get
sure.
it done, on your own time and still have really high caliber outputs, right? So I think people have a much higher aptitude to do that. I think that's one selling feature for accountants because again, our roles were traditionally butt in a seat, 9 to 6. Like
Yeah,
that's just the business model. And it's freeing to say that you don't have to. So that's one of the selling features. And like I said, the other thing is working with the clients that you want. So say you're a bookkeeper or accountant and you work for a CPA firm, you just get the clients that they have. So you're stuck with the pain in the necks, the people that are,
right.
super disparaging or they don't get you
Uh-huh.
the information you need. And the beauty of running your own business like this is you can
Yeah,
have a tough conversation, be like, I don't know that this is a good fit and I wish you well. And I'll set you up with somebody else who might be a better fit. And you can do that.
yeah,
So
that's
that's,
huge.
I like that as well. And you kind of pick the project, say you have an inbound lead and you're asking what their needs are. There's some that you're super jazzed about and you can't wait. And some you're like, this isn't for me. And it's okay to say no. And then
Right.
you build that work and you can pass that lead on to somebody else because say they have 100 people and they just need payroll. And you're like, boy, that does not sound interesting. But,
Yeah.
and you can pass on that because you do own your own business. So I think
No, I
that's
could relate to a
good.
lot of what you're saying. Definitely flexibility is huge. I
Mhm.
would say, and see if you can relate to this too, is like, I think one of the parts, good or bad, that you kind of is different being kind of self-employed or have your own business is you kind of miss out on a lot of the, I don't know what you want to call it, but in any organization, there's times where you're super busy and there's times where I feel like
Mhm.
some of the lulls you kind of, like different things and you don't have to go to many administrative kind of events and that kind of thing. And
Sure.
but it kind of, it's almost like you get a little bit more of the highlights of working with, because you're working with different people and
Mhm.
you don't stick around always for some of the boring stuff, if that makes sense. It kind of
The required town halls that we had to go to and all of that. Yeah, it's like
correct. So that's a
sure, sure. But
big
you're
thing
right, but there
now.
is some camaraderie that you get, misery does love company. So sometimes it was, fun to catch up with people, but now, I know you and I have both talked about it's tough to put ourselves out there and attend some of these events where you do have to,
Yeah,
but I know we both love what we do, so it's easy to sell and talk about it because it's like, this is what I do, and I love helping people, and so it's kind of an easy conversation putting yourself
right.
out there to different people. Yeah, because you don't have the coworkers that we used to. So,
Yeah, I love that you can kinda help a lot of different people too. Not that you didn't in one company, but, that's a huge advantage of it. So maybe
mhm.
tell me a little bit about switching back to the client side a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean, what is kind of a day in the life of what kind of stuff you guys do,
Mm,
and what you help, clients with?
beautiful. So yeah, as you mentioned, the butter, the sweet spot is a small businesses about under 15 employees, probably under 5 million. These are the small businesses who don't have the resources nor the need really to bring it in-house accountant controller, right? They
Right,
need just to outsource this and their needs could look vastly different depending on the client. And that's also the fun part because every day can look different.
right,
But bottom line is no matter how big your business is, no matter what industry you're in, accounting is pretty agnostic, meaning you got to track your revenues, you got to
yeah,
track your expenses, you got to pay your taxes. And whether or not you're selling microphones or you are a service-based insurance business, like the accounting principles hold true. So
right.
that's the joy of doing this outsource work. You can find a niche that you really enjoy. Say, I mean, say you love golf, right? And so you just start hitting up golf courses and say, "Hey, who does your bookkeeping? Who does your
Yeah.
accounting?" And then you zero in on that, right? Or say you really like marketing agencies, love working with creatives, like just you can only do the books for those. Or like myself, I like the variety. So I have vastly different clients, the
Yeah.
20 or so that I serve. I think I only have maybe 3 under a specific industry. And so they're all over the place. But I know that the crux of your question is more like the what do we do? So just for education of others, basically what we
Sure.
do is help keep your accounting software. So whether or not you're using QuickBooks or some other systems, sometimes if you have a POS system, you have accounting software built in there. We just help manage that. It takes that mental burden off of a business owner or entrepreneur that everything's being tracked and coded really. So as soon as they have a financial question, that data is up to date and accurate. So they have an accurate financial picture. Other clients love to have you do their payables and receivables. And those are fancy terms for basically sending out invoices or collecting your money, right? And then
Right.
also paying your bills. So
And
we do
very
that as well.
important still.
Very important, right? So and that also means keeping an eye on cash flow. If you just hand over a stack of bills and you say pay this, our job is not only to just execute, because honestly anybody can do that. I have a 16-year-old inside that she can pay bills if she needs to,
Right.
um, but it's you need our professional lens to be like, hey, I've seen this. Next month you have a big software subscription coming up. Do you have the cash? If we pay all these bills, there's no way you're going to be able to pay that
Right.
and pay payroll next month. Um, so we're not only
Yeah.
just the execution arm of accounting, but we're also that kind of that lens to help manage the business, right? We really partner with you, because honestly the
Right.
fun part is
Yeah.
really coming alongside and being not only an emotional, but um, like I said, a tactical and practical um, a partner in their business to help
And
them,
yeah.
see
And
things coming up. So.
do you have to meet with them quite often, or can you do a lot of it remotely? I'm guessing now with everything
Yeah.
online, you can get to a lot of the the books, so to speak, virtually. But
Mhm.
is that true? Or
That's completely true. So, it's fully remote. There are some clients who like to meet once a month in person. That's perfectly fine. I have that. Others I've never met in my whole life, and we just do everything virtually, over Zoom. And you're right with technology, like receipts can be submitted. We have shared drives. Everything's housed. Obviously, strong security is needed. Cybersecurity is needed for this, but
yeah.
it can be all done virtually. So that's the other nice thing is that we're not hamstrung to a geography. And that's another great point with Empower is
Yeah.
that we use a licensing model, not like a franchise. So when you come to Empower, you don't just get a zip code. Like think of a restaurant franchise, right?
Yeah.
Like you buy into a restaurant franchise and they say, here's the 3 zip codes you're allowed to operate in, and you can't do anything outside of that. At
Right.
Empower, literally the world's your oyster. You can find clients in Washington State, in Florida, in Miami, in Maine. Like it doesn't
Right.
matter. Um, so and yeah, it's just that's
That's a
the
huge
that's the cool part is that because it's all remote, you can do that.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage. Um,
Mhm.
so maybe, I mean, do you
Is
have
yours
any
fully remote
stories?
too? Would you say
What's
yours
that?
is? Would you say you're fully remote, or
For
there's
the most
some that
part
need?
now, when I first started, one of my clients, I was going down there 3 days a week,
Okay.
which I loved. I mean, I still like seeing people in person, but some of my clients are a
Mhm.
little bit distant, so I don't get to see them as much as I would like. You
Mhm.
definitely can do everything remote. Sometimes I think a balance is good. Because
Yeah.
being in an office, especially if there's a lot of people, you pick up on things, and I don't mean just the gossip and all that, but you pick up on kind of what's going on. Because I remember,
Yeah.
one of my clients, it was like, wait a minute, the sales is doing this process, and
Oh
I
yeah.
probably never would have known, hey, I could probably help you guys with that if I wasn't in the office, kind of hearing what was going on. But
That's
yeah, for the
very
most
true.
part, I'm mostly remote.
Mhm.
But I've gotten used to it for the most part after however many years. But I don't miss all the driving for sure. That's one thing I don't. I mean, I not just I get tired and stuff too when I drive, so it's not always the best
Yeah. Yeah.
combination. But I don't miss that part. But
Absolutely. I've saved an hour a day without commuting now on, consistently. So that's, I mean, just think of that. That adds up over time
Oh
tremendously.
yeah, your quality of life and such is
Mhm.
it's definitely improved. So
Yeah.
I know we've hit on a lot of this, but maybe do you have any good stories of success where somebody came
Mm,
in was a mess and you kind of helped them, or get them in a certain place, or I don't know, any kind of success stories to share that you could share, kind of how you've turned somebody around or something like that.
yeah, that's it's always fun to brag about clients and, what we've been able to accomplish with them. I can think of 2 kind of off the top of my head. One is just an individual, he was doing custom motorcycles, right? And so
Okay.
highly skilled, but all he wanted to do was do motorcycles, and all of his
Yeah.
finances were commingled, right? Like he just had one credit card that he did all of his business stuff and his personal. So I'm going through Amazon charges. I'm like, are these,
Oh,
are
right.
you? That's not very obvious if everything's commingled, right? Like some could be office supplies, some could be parts for his bikes, and then some
Yeah.
are, presents for his kids. I don't know. So we got that totally unwound historically, and he got over a 5-figure tax return once he
Wow.
realized how much was business expenses that he could actually write off because he swung the other way and was like, "Oh, all this is personal," and
Oh, okay.
you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
only the very, very, very direct, obvious expenses he considered business,
So he was
and
like
so
almost too honest, I guess, or too.
yeah, like too conservative. It's just like,
Yeah.
and just because he didn't have the time to do what we did. So
Yeah.
for,
That's
our
huge.
service. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Um, and then oh my gosh, I had a second one and I totally drew a blank. My second
You're
success
okay.
story. Oh yeah, we've
It
had but those are good examples where we've just helped individuals kind of get their heads around that and just improved both their time efficiency. That's the other thing too is we build process efficiencies, software recommendations
Mhm.
where individuals just kind of cobble together. You're a startup, so you're just doing as a startup or a business owner, you're trying to do everything as cheap and fast as possible. So you just do it, and then over time, it's like, well, that's not really like this isn't serving you well. It might be a little cheaper, but the amount of time that it takes. So that's another thing, just efficiency gains that we help bring to the table, and people are more than
Right.
pleased with that
Oh,
sort of stuff.
that's
So that's
do you
fun
guys
stuff.
do the taxes too, or you just kinda help,
Mm,
do you kinda help get all the
mhm.
books in order for somebody else to do the taxes, or do you guys actually do tax work also?
So the beauty of the professionals under Empower is that they can sell whatever wares that they have. So whatever
Okay.
skills they have, right? At the time, we don't have anybody that also does taxes. So I'm not going to say no, Empowered will never do taxes, but
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
right now we don't. And honestly, that's a very different skill set. Individuals who do tax returns versus day-to-day accounting and bookkeeping, and it neither is good or bad. It's just they're very
For
different.
sure.
And um, so me personally, I never wanted to learn and stay up on tax code. Many of
Yeah.
us are well versed in like general tax knowledge, but I don't know 2024's tax laws, right?
Yeah.
So um,
Exactly.
but I do know what needs tracked. I know, anything over $75 needs a receipt. I know what is allowed for meals and entertainment. It's like things like that you just
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And our best benefit is that we are the liaison between our client and their CPA. And so we
Nice.
speak the language of both and essentially only bring the client in as necessary, right? So that's another thing that they're like, you just handle this with my
Yeah.
CPA, get my tax return, and bring me in when you need me. And again, that's just a mental burden that they don't have to worry about. So
That would be good.
yeah, it's
Yeah, because
huge.
one of the best decisions I made, I guess, starting out was I did end up hiring someone to do my taxes because, shout out to George, but I used to do everything myself, but I'm like, "Hey, when I'm starting this," and it's been one of the
Mhm,
best decisions ever because I don't have to think about it. I don't have to know
mhm.
all the different things, and I mean, that's
Yeah.
gotta be a huge lift for people, so,
Well, I'm impressed you
um
even tried to do it yourself, Andy. I'm an accounting major and I did my taxes one time on TurboTax. I said, never again. I'm not doing
yeah,
this.
Yeah, well, I should clarify. I did it before I had a business,
Okay,
but I
okay, fair.
never did it once I had a business. I was like, and it wasn't probably as bad that starting out, but
Sure.
no, it's a huge burden off. So,
And that's another thing
um,
I'm gonna plug too, just along, pulling that thread. Absolutely, if there's individuals listening that have their own business or looking to start, or even if you're doing decent financially as an individual, a CPA, a good CPA who is a strategic tax preparer is going to be invaluable. So you're going to want to, and please feel free to reach out if you're looking. I
yeah,
have a bench of some strong CPAs, because there's plenty of resources who can help prepare your taxes. I mean, you can go to H&R Block down the street if you just need
yeah,
somebody to fill out a form. But a strategic tax planner, so the key there is strategic,
yeah,
they're going to work with you on your individual circumstance and help advise the best structure for you. So I know most people are like, I'm going to start an LLC. And you're like, okay, that's great. That's actually just a legal structure. That's
right,
saying you're limited, you have legal
yeah,
liability for your company. That means if something goes haywire and my clients sue me, they can't take my house because,
right,
that's Meredith's assets, not the business's assets, right? So that's what an
right,
LLC is. But a tax strategist can say, here's the best tax structure for your business, whether or not that's sole proprietor, S Corp,
mhm,
C Corp, however. So they know that side of the business. And again, that's where they can save you tens of thousands of dollars. So
yeah. I agree
yeah,
because I
definitely look into
shifted to an S corp, and it
that. Oh,
definitely
yeah.
I wasn't at first, and it was so that would have been hard to unravel that on your own. So,
You wouldn't even know. And same, when I first started, our CPA did the same thing. So I wouldn't
yeah,
even have. I mean, I knew those different names were out there and structures, but I didn't know how it would benefit
right.
personally and professionally, like what it would do to our tax returns. And I was like, oh,
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
agree. It's a
mhm,
huge difference it can be.
yeah,
So yeah, just maybe I guess one other side of it, what do you see small businesses struggle with, or what kind of things, I know we've hit on some of it, but is there kind of any theme or something like, a lot of the small businesses are kind of struggling with the same kind of things, or any patterns like that you see?
yeah. I would say the biggest pattern is the owner wearing too many hats, and they try to hold on to many things for as long as possible for
Yeah.
either just fear. And I trust me, this is no judgment because I own a business and I do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
There's but they hold on to it for a number of reasons, just fear of letting go, or and fear of trusting somebody else to do it.
Uh-huh.
And finances are usually one of the last things that they let go of. Like they'll let go of some marketing and some of that sort of stuff. But
Right.
their finances, as soon as that is such a vulnerable thing for somebody to say, here's my bank account. Here is, like
Yeah.
literally just, it's like standing there with your pants down, quite frankly. Sorry, again, talk
No.
about analogies. It's like, here's everything. Like, here's me,
Yeah.
all my, and, I know when people have squirrel funds for their DraftKings account. Like, I see you, I see what you're doing. But we have confidentiality agreements and I say nothing, but we know everything. We know if people are struggling to make payroll. Um,
Yeah.
and that's where I would say the biggest pattern is just owners holding on to a lot of things for a long time, and then us coming in. And one of the most rewarding conversations and things happening, Andy, is like you could see like during our first meeting, the business owners are like this, and then by the
Yeah.
end, it's just like you just see the shoulders are like,
Wow.
ah, like
That's
somebody
amazing.
can take this burden. And like I've used the term mental load a couple times in this call. It's like it's just it's so freeing to know, okay, somebody's honest, trustworthy, has got my back, who has the chops, right? Who have experience. Um, we're looking for accountants with the gray hairs, right? People who have some experience and can come alongside these owners and help. Like I said, we're not just bookkeepers that are going to sit here and just keystroke and you're on your
Yeah.
own. it's highly relational, and that's the cool part about it.
And are most of the people pretty receptive to it? I'm guessing, it takes time to build that trust, but then kind of once you do, I'm guessing it's like you're kind of
Mhm.
you're an extension to the company then, I would think, right?
100%. That's exactly how it goes. And like I mentioned or just kind of alluded to is I have attorneys that drafted a confidentiality NDA that I send to my clients before we do anything. And it's heavily weighted in their favor. It's basically saying, I cannot divulge anything that you send me. Everything is
Right.
between us. Yeah. And so again, you can just see that level of professionalism. Individuals are like, oh, they're covering their bases. They've got my best interest at heart, right? Because all we have is our reputation. Service
Right.
industries, right? So my husband was in sales, and back when I was working in corporate America, he'd be like, "Why are you still online? At night?" I'm just like, "Kids are in bed. I'm still working,"
Yep, yep.
and I'm like, "You have quotas, and you like you can achieve your numbers, and that's your attaboy. Like, okay, he's doing a great job. All I have is my reputation. So I'm constantly like, you've got to level that up and
Mhm.
do, outstanding work for people to recognize because I don't have anything else in this in
Yeah,
this line of
that's
work.
great.
So the best way to tank your career is to tank your reputation. So um, yeah, you just got to stay above board with everything and just and the other thing too is the lifeline of this and probably for yourself as well as referrals, right? So that's a great so once somebody refers you, it's almost like you're in the fast lane with them, right? Like, oh, my buddy told me
Right.
to come talk to Meredith and her team. "Oh, we know you got us covered. And it's just like you get past like my buddy trusts you, I'm gonna trust you. So you just kind of hit the ground running. And I'm sure you're the same. I mean, you're looking at
Yeah. For
data of
sure, it
it,
definitely helps because it's like, at the end of the day, like, not to but there's a lot of people that do kind of similar things that we both do probably, so it's like it really helps to but a lot of
Yeah,
times you want someone that you can trust and that is gonna,
yeah.
that is pretty easy to work with and, that somebody's had good success with, and I think if you can
Mhm.
prove all that stuff and someone yeah, referrals are always the
Yeah.
best, I would
Do you
say.
have a confidentiality agreement that you send your clients?
I don't normally. I mean, it
Okay.
depends. I usually don't initiate one, but obviously I'll sign anything, but
Yeah.
I don't initiate them,
Yeah.
but it's never
Well,
been
why
an
don't I
issue.
send you mine? I I think
Yeah,
it's generic enough that like just take a look at it if you would ever want to
sure.
because it's basically saying you're sharing your data with me and I can't share that data with anybody else. It's
No,
pretty
it's a great
generic,
that is a
you know?
great point. Yeah, thanks for that. Definitely. Yeah, I guess just before we wrap up, I mean, any advice for anybody,
Mm,
small businesses that you work with or people starting their
mhm,
business, anything that you kind of think I
mm.
know you've sprinkled a lot of that advice throughout the call already, but just wondering if you had any final thoughts on things you'd recommend to other people.
Hmm. Okay, if you're a small business owner, my best advice is now. Just live in the now. And you
Mhm.
might, if you're listening to this and you're like, I haven't even been track. I just started my business in January. It's July. I've, you know, got a bunch of credit cards. I haven't
Mhm.
even started tracking things. Do it now. There's no,
Yeah,
there's no such thing as, too late. It's just like, just start and reach out to us if you need help. But
yeah,
it's easiest to do it as early as possible. And so that's where it's like, just do it now. And rip the
yeah,
Band-Aid
that's
off
great
and start
advice.
tracking it, right? Do you
That's
use
great
QuickBooks?
advice.
What do you use, Andy?
What's that?
Do you use QuickBooks or what do you use?
I use QuickBooks Online or actually
Okay.
self-employed,
Tell
but
everybody how easy that is.
it's very simple. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
there you
I
go.
mean, it's like flossing. I don't do it as often as I should, but I do come in, I do, every month at least, go in there, kind of make
Yeah.
sure but I don't have a ton of, um, transactions like
Transactions.
some businesses would have, so mine is fairly easy, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's very simple, and then, most of the time you can have rules for things, Like anytime it sees, you know, like my
Like
Microsoft
anytime
bill
Duke
every
Energy
month.
comes through, that's a utility. Like
Yeah,
anytime.
or my Microsoft bill every
Software.
month, or any of those
Mhm.
subscriptions that I've mounted up, you know, a number of them, you know, the automatic, basically I don't have to touch them.
Yeah.
And luckily I do kind of separate everything, so I don't have a lot of you know, the mix between the personal and the business, so that's a big advantage. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's not too difficult, but
Mhm.
it's definitely you
Mhm.
know, if I had a lot more transactions, I definitely would be considering having someone like yourself,
Totally.
or that
Yeah, it doesn't make
you know.
sense. But and here I think there's a strong correlation to both of us, and I bet this would be similar advice. It's tough to make decisions without good data, and that's where I mean with the now kind of philosophy. It's like you need to get a handle on your revenues, expenses, cash flow, because and just like what you do, right? Like you data informs the future. And so if you don't have that data, how are you, it's very difficult to make pricing decisions, hiring decisions, all of that. So it's not
Right.
hard to track and say, you know, what expenses go to what categories, but it's what do you do with all that data? And then, you know, how do you pivot and make it, you know, forward looking for you and your business? So that's what it's not just about tracking it. Um, it's about what can you use that data for. So that's my
Yeah.
advice to small business owners. And then my advice to accountants, um, you don't have to always do what you're doing just because that's what you've been told. So if you are sitting in a desk right now on your lunch break because you have to eat at your desk because that's what we always do,
Yeah.
and you're dreaming about, man, I wish, you know, I was maybe somewhere else and not stuck in the office today because it's 80 and beautiful, and I'd like something a little different. Just know that there's other options. I would welcome a conversation if you'd like to learn a little bit more about what Empower does or my journey. I welcome that. So you can, if you're on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn as well, so you can reach out there. Um, and the other thing too is, oh, I have a neat story too. When I first
Sure.
started,
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
that kind of guided me. She was a, I'm going to say enthusiast because I don't know that there's professionals, but she was a whitewater rafting kayaker. And so I got connected with her because she was looking to get rid of clients. She had too many. She was a bookkeeper, had too many clients, was looking to thin some, and it was because she literally has one of those like sprinter vans and travels around to where the swells are, or whatever she was calling them, and just to go whitewater rafting, kayaking all through the
Wow.
US, and then does books on the days or the couple hours that she's not on the river. And so I my husband and I were joking. I was like, she's literally living in a van down by the river and like living her dream,
That's
absolutely living her
great.
dream, and making a very good living,
Uh,
supplementing her lifestyle. So
that's
that's where I'm
amazing.
saying it's like I don't want to make this. It's hard. It's really hard work, but it is rewarding. Yes, you do have to do some sales to put yourself out there. So I don't want to act like this is just easy
Yeah.
street. So I just want to temper that. But at the same time, I absolutely love what I'm doing. I can't imagine that I would be doing anything else. And so I just want to evangelize that to other Merediths that might be sitting in corporate or sitting in a CPA firm, kind of wondering, is there something else or something different that I could be exploring?
No, that's a really great way to end it too, because that's I love that, because you kind of feel sometimes trapped, and I was kind of that same way. And there can be other options. So, well, thanks
Mm-hmm.
so much, Meredith. This was
This was
super
fun.
helpful, and I think you kind of already covered it. But what's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they want to learn more?
So I think because this is going to our legion of LinkedIn followers, they can just reach out via
Yeah,
LinkedIn. That's probably going to be the best way.
sure.
Or if you want to go to empowerap.com, that's our website, just to learn a little bit more. There's some resources out there, some articles if you want to read up on what it means to be fractional accountant. Those are some resources too. So empowerap.com or Meredith Arlinghaus on LinkedIn.
All right, Meredith. Well, thanks so much for joining me, and I guess I will see you tonight at the Foo
I
Fighters
hope
concert.
to see you at Phil as well. All right.
All right, thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks so much.
See you next
Had
time.
fun. Bye, Andy.